Going live. I'll let you know in a moment.
Mhm.
Going through Zoom and everything, all the technicalities. Isn't it so amazing? Like imagine 5 years ago, even trying to think of like doing this level of chat and then making it live, then people around the world can tune in. And you're over in the UK, I'm here in the US.
Right.
It's like so cool what's possible. You just wonder, in like 2028.
Exactly. How we can utilize technology to actually just expand communication in this world instead of limiting communication, which you see with a lot of computer games that are left unchecked with parents and kids and things like that, right? It's really technology we can enhance what life generally and our communication with each other. So yeah, it's really cool. I know, and with this lockdown, you notice that everyone's had to get used to doing Zoom chats, and if you're not, then your world's got to be getting so small right now. So yeah, let's all do
Yeah.
this because we need to, right?
Yeah. There we go. I got you tagged in the video. We are fully live.
Cool.
Let's jam, man. So,
Yeah.
wow.
Mhm.
Wow. This past
What an
year,
amazing year.
I know.
Right.
So, for those who don't know Marley, who are on my page, Marley is a phenomenal human that I met over the past year through my involvement with TechnoTutor, Destiny. I don't know if you're part of Jin either, but
I have been, yeah, absolutely.
okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's kind of that trifecta,
Right.
TechnoTutor, Jin, and Destiny. And to just see another person from, I mean, you've been involved for a very long time relative to me. So it's been
Yeah.
so cool to hear about your journey and everything with it. And then especially now what we're doing, what we have, planned for 2021. So Marley's over in the UK.
Yeah.
He's a country distributor of TechnoTutor. So he's got quite a large responsibility. It's very cool. Um, okay, earlier this year, Marley, I was the first time I saw one of your videos.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was when COVID, really was like, we're locking down all that.
Just the start. Yeah.
Yeah, and you had said something to, gosh, what's that guy's name? Boris Johnson?
Yeah. The prime
Yeah.
minister.
Yeah. What was your message to him again? Because I would love for my, everyone to hear that again.
Essentially, it was just to actually use this time to actually redesign how we support each citizen in the nation. Because, yeah, clearly life is going to become more and more difficult for all of us, and it has been, generally speaking, for majority of people. I mean, obviously, we've had a great year in TechnoTutor, and what we're doing at Destiny and Jin and our networks has been growing phenomenally through 2020. But for most people, it's been such a limitation of all areas of life, and it's affected all of us in various ways. So really, I was just trying to say to Boris Johnson, look, now we need a support network. We actually need to redesign our relationship with money and realize that in the year 2020, with a virus, I mean, even before the virus was here, it was so obvious that life was falling apart for the majority, and AI was coming whether or not there was a virus anyway.
Hmm.
Now we've got the virus and AI. It's like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of people struggling to support themselves, and there already is billions as we speak anyway.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, it's just really we need all the politicians to realize this. But if they're not going to realize it, obviously we'll just integrate into the government and
Hmm.
we'll redesign the system to be what's best. Because yeah, I mean, thank you for that introduction as well,
Of
Mitch. But
course.
it's like for you as well. For me, it's like you've been such a great example in our network in the time that you've been with us, and just in this past year, I've taken a lot of support from what you do, and I see in the future definitely if you want to go into politics, man, like I would love to see that, right? So
Yeah, I've
we're all
got some plans.
this is it, right? We really do need to have leaders in the world that we can now rely on,
Hmm.
leaders of dignity, leaders that live their words, right, without all these tainted brick walls and this tainted living. Um, so yeah, so that we can actually have what we all want really, which is a world where we're all enjoying it, and it's essentially a form of heaven, right, on
Hmm.
earth.
Yeah. Yeah. You had mentioned a little bit about AI right there. I mean, I talk about this a lot, but From your perspective, what do you see over the next year to 2 years of how AI is coming in and just really, shifting things?
Yeah, it's like a big awakening. Definitely, it's if you go back 3 years ago, most people would, if you'd said, "Oh well, there's going to be a global lockdown, there'll be a virus, everyone will be stuck in their house, they'll be too afraid to even communicate with each other." Oh, you've been watching too many virus films, definitely, dude. Too many zombie films. Something's wrong with you. When really those zombie films were a part of the predictive programming, right, leading up to where we are now, where it's actually happening in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
So from my perspective, what we see with something like AI and robotics, cybernetics, we're going to see another big shock from my perspective, the next 2 to 25 years. People are going to realize how much technology has, how far it's come, really, and what AI is capable of doing in the workforce, which will essentially make a lot of people obsolete in what they're doing. And if you're not more creative, more intelligent, more confident, more self-esteem, more understanding of yourself and the world, how are you going to really sustain yourself? It's like I always ask, it's if you had a business in 10 years time and you were a business owner and all the robots could do all the labor for you, but you need to maintain maybe a few humans in positions of authority, who are you going to prioritize, right? You're going to prioritize the most creative and intelligent ones among us, which comes back to what we do at TechnoTutor. We're here to obviously make sure that people have real creative freedom and can really expand themselves in the most effective way possible in their life and have amazing impacts in the world. So, it's likely as well, we're going to be seeing, obviously, the vaccines is being rolled out now. And people have all kinds of varying views around vaccines, and I totally understand that. Ultimately, though, it's more than likely that everyone will have to have one. It's already been discussed anyway with different government policies around certain events you won't be able to go to if you don't have the vaccine, certain places, certain countries. It's already gearing up for the vaccine payment system, which has been trialed in some African nations in a few places where it will just come to the point where, look, if you don't have the vaccine, you're not getting paid from work, okay? So people will have to accept that and get used to that. And microchip is likely to come shortly after it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's all down to starting point. It's like, yeah, okay, we have an elite which are abusive right now, which we need to redesign and make what's best for all life. But we can't complain about, don't blame microchips. It's not microchips or vaccines' fault that we're in this situation, right?
Yeah.
So if we get the right sort of government in place, we can utilize microchip technology in a way that benefits all life. We can have vaccines and I mean, not specifically vaccines, but just different forms of science to enhance the body. And we can use these things in ways that's best for all. So, yeah, it's just a couple of points I'm seeing anyway.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like this year. It's
yeah,
kind
what are you
of
seeing, Mitch, with it as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. It's like year 2020. It's like 2020 vision on seeing all the shit that we've allowed for all these years. And just within myself, like, especially so, living in Minneapolis where the whole George Floyd thing happened, and just seeing in front of, like, right outside my apartment, the whole, city, rioting, looting, peaceful protesting, all sorts of things. But then asking within myself, instead of looking outside myself to cast blame on, like, oh, how haven't they reformed police police training? Why is it that I heard some stat that barbers get more training than police officers do? It's like, what? Like, what is, but in those moments, right, you have this split second where you can either say, well, that's just fucked, like, that's just police, yep, it just corrupt, or that's just the government and they're going to respond with this and all that, or yep, people are going to react whatever. But instead, I just looked at myself. I was like, wow, would I be willing to sit down, with the chief of police? Would I be willing to sit down with the sheriff? Would I be willing to sit down with the mayor or the governor and actually like look at how do we really reform this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's bringing it back to self again. That's the
Mhm.
crucial point, right? So easy to go into blame.
Of course, yeah. So that's what I've been really liking too. So um a lot of, so within Destiny, we talk about the principles, right? Principle of self-responsibility, self-honesty, self-trust, all of that. And that's been a huge thing. So I think that could be a little bit it'd be really important actually for us to discuss throughout your journey, and just for people tuning into this, like that process of really looking at yourself and then starting to unpack and unravel. So for example, I know we both have done the Destiny I process. There's the light version, which is free online. I'm doing DIP Pro now, but it's like, I mean, dude, I went to university. I studied psychology for the past 10 years. Literally, the free DIP Light course is more valuable than all the money I put into university in terms of like
Exactly.
practically like unpacking yourself, because we are either our own worst enemy and we will block ourselves from the next level and what we're capable of, or we can actually have this like relationship of equality with ourselves and our utmost potential. So you want to explain a little bit like how over, let's say this, over the past year, how have you utilized the tools within Destiny and just in general, like your own personal development, to actually like really support yourself and others?
Yeah, that's been amazing. I mean, it's been such a long process and so many years of support that's come through for me and others. And in this past year, it's really been because as Bernard pointed out with this process, it's like um, 7 to 14 years. It's not something where you click your fingers and you're just like the most perfected version of yourself, right? We'd all love it to be like that. But I can honestly say that I'm the most faultless version of myself that I have been thus far
Cool.
because of the tools at my disposal, right? I've actually developed a relationship over the past year, which has been a completely different starting point from an agreement perspective, where it's completely unconditional and we're supporting each other to be the best versions of each other. It's not based on feelings. It's not based on um, any form of self-sabotage and all these various points that we in the system is seen as a valid relationship, which always comes back to abuse and self-interest. And so that's been a massive thing for me in the past year. And also the point of developing my communication of TechnoTutor specifically with people. It's like I've had years where I've been effective at doing that on and off in various periods. And it's been the most consistent I have been in the past year, particularly in terms of moving myself to be able to actually, because of the impacts I've had in my life with the system and with the Destiny message and the principles, it's like, yeah, I've never had a year where I've been so effective at sharing everything we do with as many people as possible and not limiting myself to, oh, just this specific group of people that I can speak with, just Estonians or just people in this network or just these people. And, oh, I don't really want to talk about it with these friends or with those people. It's like every single person in my life knows what I do because I just am so clear with everything with everybody now. Whereas before it would be like in years prior, I'd always be open about my process, but I would never be really very effective at sharing with others that they should perhaps do it as well, because it would be more of like a judgmental starting point. Like, well, why the fuck haven't you worked this out? Why haven't you realized this? Like, and it's this questioning, this annoyance at other people that they haven't realized what I've realized, etc. And it's just an ego fuck. So that's been really powerful for me in the last year as well.
Yeah, big thing with me too. So like in the process, we talk about self-forgiveness, right? Because like forgiveness, we hold on to so much like baggage toward ourselves, that where we judge ourselves or think we could have done this better or that better and all that. So really the most important person to forgive is ourselves. And it didn't fully click with me till, I mean, around this time last year, I was like starting to go through this stuff and started to realize a little bit like, oh, this really works. Like I'm actually thinking differently, processing reality differently. This is so cool. But it was another jump for me from realizing that self-forgiveness, because I don't know about you, but I kind of would like separate like personal development with then like business development.
Yeah,
But I'm like an entrepreneur, so they're really one and the same.
exactly.
But it was so huge for me when I started to realize like the more I did self-forgiveness and did it effectively, I just was able to show up and be more effective, which in turn related to me making more money, like directly. So
Exactly.
that was so cool. Like it just didn't click until this past year. And now that's been phenomenal because now I know no matter what level then we get to, like so as we move into 2021 and beyond, you know, those tools go with us to whatever level necessary, right? Because this is about, you know, reaching utmost potential.
Exactly. No, that's really cool. You point out that merging of the business and the self. There's no separation between the two, and it's like, yeah, you're seeing how that stability is coming into just everything of you, right? It's like there is no separation other than what we create for ourselves in our minds, and yeah, it's going to be amazing moving into 2021. And the process for me has been so long getting here, and just to it's like just to give people some brief insight with that, it's like you know, growing up, it was I had a lot of like anger within me, generally speaking. I was a very angry kid because I wasn't born in maybe the best sort of family scenario, stable family scenario. It's like not like, oh no, poor me. It's just the reality of it wasn't the most stable home life, right? And that was mainly because of where I was born. I was born in Moss Side in Manchester, and my dad was unstable. He was a criminal, and my mum had a difficult upbringing herself. And she basically realized at a young age to get me out of that sort of surrounding and environment. But still growing up in my teenage years, there was a lot of anger because of my dad would never be there. My mum would always be ill and disabled. And then um, the black side of my family was like unknown to me, and the white side of my family was like all I knew, and in terms of what supported me all the time. And my granddad was a scientist, and he would say things so often that would just confuse me, and again would cause more anger because I didn't have the vocabulary to truly understand what he was talking about. So I had all these experiences and things I was reacting to in my young years that were just making me annoyed all the time, and I would just take it out on everyone around me, and I would live a certain lifestyle for a long period of time. And I had these specific wake up calls that hit me back to back in the space of a month. And I'm like, right, fuck this. I can't keep living like this. It's obvious that I'm going to be put in prison for the rest of my life, or I'm going to die if I keep actually living like this. I could see it starting to play out and accelerating. And I'm like, right, I've got to find a way to sort myself out. There's no way that this can be what everyone remembers me for if I'm dead tomorrow, right? This asshole. So I basically went into spirituality, right? Like a lot of us have been in before in our lives, right? And I'm sure you've walked your process with that as well, right? Which it's so many of us have come through that format. It's just a question more of like, you know, what is the meaning of life, right? And am I really the best version of myself? Is there not surely some way I can improve myself? I got into spirituality for years, and it was just I thought I was doing great, like improving myself, right? But really, I was just very effective at distracting myself. And it's a
There's that self-honesty.
right. And then it was Bernard. It was around 2008, 2009. Some video I heard of his, and he was just challenging spiritual concepts a lot, very directly in it. And I got all offended, and I started reacting loads. And he would just point out of how what I'm speaking about is just not reality. And the more I would just cross-reference and test what he's talking about, and it came to a point where eventually he said to me, Marley, you keep talking about all this love and light shit, right? That's what you live and that's what you do, but you're like being abusive towards me, and you're being abusive towards people in our message. Like, why is that if you are this embodiment of love now, this great spiritual enlightened being? And that question really made me go, oh shit, that's really like, why is it that I'm doing that and claiming such love though? So I actually stopped fucking around with myself and being like, okay, I'm going to actually try these tools now. I'm going to try self-writing, self-forgiveness, self-honesty, common sense, the destiny principles. And it was incredible what started to happen. It was like, for the first time ever, I could actually stop my thinking patterns, and I could actually see where they were coming from. The more, and I always hated writing. I never enjoyed that as a kid, right? Because I didn't have the words necessarily to be able to just sit there and process things. And understanding the development of that through, yeah, writing was so powerful, that developed early on just from going through the tools and realizing that I could redesign myself, and then walking that. And then TechnoTutor being introduced to me around sort of like 2011-ish, around that sort of time, and how I could see then with the, now I've got these tools where I can redesign myself to be the best version of me. But then there's this other tool where I can actually imprint the symbols into me faster than ever before as well. And so it was fascinating, because then I could actually just increase my ability to learn new information, and to go back through everything in my childhood which had caused so many words that had trauma connected to them, locate them, and then pull them through in my writings and forgive myself of the trauma and the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that were connected to all these words, and truly live these words in a way that's best for all life. So yeah, and then like I say, it was like I said to you beforehand, Mitch, it was really around 2013. I sort of, Bernard died, and then my granddad died, and it hit me within a month. And then I'd come so far in my process to get to that point, and I sort of just fell and was just fucking around with the mind for years, just in self-loathing and depression, and all this sort of annoyance, etc., was coming back up. And then through the years, it was seeing how it was continually using the system and continually using the tools, though, and coming back to them, even though I kept falling down, just continually coming back to them. And whenever I would want to learn new information or go into a new field in the system or something, I would absorb the information so quickly and could just succeed in it very well. And then it was Cameron and Avery through the years, and seeing how they were building actual business around TechnoTutor that was pushing me, and they pushed me and said, look, Molly, you know, you're using the system and you know how it's assisted you so much in your life, so maybe build some business around it. And then a few years ago, I started to really focus on that. And now we're here. And I'm chatting with you, Mitch, and you're an incredible person in our network. And I look forward to an amazing 2021 where we're going to get more and more people in our network than ever before, right? And we're going to make sure we have the biggest impact we can in this world as a part of the first wave, which is really what we are, right?
Yeah. I'm just getting a little background through your computer, but it's all good. Right. So, I mean, that was awesome to hear. Like, that was very cool to see it, very relatable, of like how we, you know, you have that roller coaster of life, but then it's like the people that are part of this group doing this process, at some point we do actually make that decision and then back it up with action and then like stabilize. Exactly. And then now we're able to be like these stable points within reality, so that as the world keeps collapsing, it's like this new structure's emerging. That's literally like the networks that we're building and the people who are doing this process. So that's going to be cool to see in 2021. Was there anything, I mean, I remember hearing early on, like you were one of like the bashers of Destiny. Like, you know, like there are all sorts of people online who, you know, write all sorts of articles and just don't understand the thing. So like, oh, this guy sounds like he's talking about some concepts, and then they just, you know, write like shit talking articles. Yeah. Were you one of the original bashers? And was that the conversation with Bernard that actually kind of shifted your perspective? Or like, maybe you could just walk a little through that perspective? Because I know myself too, I was so skeptical, or like the first time I heard of Jin and Kevin Trudeau, I was like, oh, this sounds really good. Then I looked him up online, and there's like the first 2 pages of Google are like, Kevin Trudeau is a scam artist, all this stuff. I was like, right, wait, why is there so many negative articles like this? Like, what's going on? And then you look it up on a different search engine and it's different. And it's like, okay, something's going on here. So
Yeah.
that, like, that skepticism, like, there's a healthy skepticism to, use discernment, but then there's also this, like, this process that one can undergo to actually really investigate things and see if it's practical, and then, like, take it on. So you want to share a little bit more about, like, that transformation for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like Bernard said to me as well, like when I eventually got to the point of meeting him and I got past all the initial reactions in my mind and I had actually been using the tools and walking them and becoming the best version of me. But before that, Bernard even told me that the first attacks anyway from the system, essentially, when Destiny was set up, was from the UK. And the global education system and how capitalism is structured, it's sort of like the center of mind control almost is the UK. And majority of the well-off nations as well, right? So the USA is a part of that also. Um, and yeah, it was just ultimately it came to the point of because yeah, when you're a light worker, it's like the idea of taking self-responsibility is so scary. It's such a thing you react to because you can't bullshit yourself anymore because you want to keep doing that and living in your head and having these great fantasy adventures in meditation and spiritual land, and actual real change that's measurable is painful and it's not enjoyable. And so yeah, initially I had all this I just didn't want to do it, and it's like, no, you're wrong, I want to blame you for telling me to stand up now. And so that's what I was doing, absolutely. uh, and then it just came to the point again of just realizing that if I actually do want to be the best version of myself, then I will actually have to investigate everything that's here with a clear starting point. There's no point in me trying to project my ideas onto something and then saying, "Oh no, I've looked into that." It's like, really, have you? It's the same as if, yeah, you sit there and you just type something into Google, and if you're going to allow Google to basically now decide for you what something is, what does that say about you? What does that say about me? Right? You're saying you can be brainwashed and by the perspectives of other people without any cross reference. And so I just started walking more and more, and then it was fascinating as I was seeing the expansion in myself. I'm like, right, this shit really works. I need to go and meet Bernard now, right? And I need to like just. It was like the only thing in my mind that was like, because I was like, no, I know all these people that talk shit online because I was one of them. They don't know what they're talking about, right? And I would see all these other articles. I'm like, no, no, no. These people are probably even paid, some of them, and I'm certain that some of them are. And then when I went over there, I was like literally thinking on the way there, like, oh, maybe, there'll maybe be like shape-shifting aliens on the farm or something, or like Bernard will be like screaming and shouting at everyone, and there'll be a portal that actually opens up that I can walk into or something, and actually, all this shit was coming up, all these imaginations and fantasies while I'm on the plane on the way there, even after walking for a good few years, and I knew all these people online, right? But it's like I wanted that verification, like, okay,
Mhm.
I met you all in the flesh, and I know that this is tangible, because I'm getting tangible results, and it's kind of like almost the results I'm reacting to as well. And I'm like, shit, this fucking shit works. Like, so, and then when I get there, it's like Bernard hugged me, and then it was like it's still been one of the most profound trips I've had, and I've had a lot of trips. I've been to like 35 odd countries. I've lived in 4, and it's still to this day it just sticks out because I've never been anywhere before where everyone no one had any more authority than anybody else. Everyone was communicating clearly and understanding their roles, and supporting each other without any form of manipulation, without any form of emotional blames that you get used to seeing in the system of interaction between people. And I'm like, fucking hell, this exactly, this is not okay. I knew the tools worked, but now I actually see the results of when we're all interacting, what it's actually like. It's the most harmonious environment I'd ever been in before, where people are not taking out their own shit on each other. Rather, we'll just bring it up, discuss it, and resolve it in a way that's best for everyone that's here. And just various points along those lines, like I'd never been anywhere where I'd seen so many different species of animals all like coexisting, like not attacking each other. Like you just automatically think, well, there's that idea in the system, well, dogs can't live with cats, and you can't have certain animals with certain animals. And I'm like, well, yeah, but at the same time, if the humans implement a system that's best for all with the animals there, then, and the animals are included in that equal money system, it's like you see how the animals change their interaction with each other as well. It was fascinating. I'd never seen, like, I remember multiple moments just standing there and being like, oh yeah, there's a dog walking past the bird, walking past the horse, and they're just all like respecting each other. There would be small little moments here and there, but just not what you would expect for how many different animals all living together. It was incredible to see. And I'd never seen that before because I'd only been in like out in the wild where it is the law of survival of the fittest, the same as the money system, right? So you see the most horrific things out in the wild. But yeah, it was incredible to see so many animals living together, coexisting. So yeah, that was some amazing points there.
Wow. Now, taking all this, right, that we've been covering, like this idea of team life. I mean, so I'm still working through like some of the Bernard blogs and stuff, and just in general, this understanding of what life really is. Because like, you ever hear people have that like that greeting of like, oh, hey, Marley, how's life treating you? Or like, life going good for you? And it's like, we just totally like bastardize this word life into just like this like, word that just like has some sort of like energy and memories attached to it. But like, when you really understand what life is, it's like everything that's here. And so realizing that equality amongst things, and obviously you still have to use common sense. Let's say there's like, a cat drown in some hypothetical scenario, right? Like someone challenged me on this the other day. They're like, wait, you mean equality of life? Like, what if a dog was drowning and like a human was drowning? Like you'd get the dog first? I'm like, no, like you have common sense. Like I would still get the human. But
of course,
it's just funny. It's like such foreign concepts, and that's why some people like probably can't even process. Wait, what do you mean everyone was acting in harmony? Like, like what? Like something must be up with that. It's like, or it's
that right? It's that idea of like because of how history's the top 1% of 1% that we've allowed to be in positions that they are for so long. They've just, they very meticulously and almost artistically built that into the system where the very word equality, exactly, it just has all these connotations that people connect to it. Like, well, that sounds like, like communism or some sort of strange utopian cult idea, and then you see in day-to-day living how we all have these multiple situations where we want to be treated with respect, right? so it's fascinating how we get so confused with those concepts. And again, that's why it's just so enjoyable doing what we do. We give people the means to be able to actually process what equality really does mean, and to learn to live it in ways that just will empower you and other people to be the best versions of themselves. And it's it's such a cool point there that you raised though with that.
So from your perspective then, like what does team life mean to you, and what does it practically look like, as we enter this new year? And who knows, everyone who's like, oh, 2020 was so bad, I'm so looking forward to 2021. It's like coronavirus round 2 might happen. There might be COVID-21 come out.
Right.
And that, like it's such a it's just like not dealing with reality. It's like hoping it's going to go back to some way. Oh, here's one other point before I just hear your take on this. So in the city that I live in, it's, a bit more liberal, and there's all sorts of people love to put their signs in the yard, as I'm sure any, city, people like to, express their views. But there was one that was particularly fascinating the other day. It was a sign that said, "It will be good again. It will be good again," like 15 times. it will be good again. So I get the intention is like, keep the hope. I know lockdown's happening, but like we can get through this together. It will be good. Just like hang in there. So I get that. I'm guessing that's what they meant, but the limited view that you have to think that it was ever even fucking good in the first place, like that's what needs to be challenged. Like will it be good again and we go back to a world where still 20,000 kids die every fucking day from preventable causes, or child sex trafficking happens every day, and like all this shit happens? Like it will be good again. It's like it was never fucking good.
It was never good. Exactly. This is the reality. It's just accelerated now, the abuse, and it's like there's more fear than ever before, and that fear is just fucking with people's ears, right? When I see stuff like that, it's exactly what I'm looking at. It's like, well, yeah, I understand. You know, we'd all like to not have a government screaming at you to wear a mask and stay in your house, but we allow this system to be where it is now, and there was incredible abuse anyway, generally speaking, that had to be resolved. We don't have a system that's best for all. We don't have a good times, like just generally speaking, unless you are what? In the top 1% of 1%. And that's what we're here to redesign, to actually build an elite that that we can be all proud of and be like, okay, yeah, these guys actually are planning and doing what's best, and we can all see it. It's not like they're just speaking this stuff, which is what we're also used to with world leaders. They all just talk a great game, and then it always comes to when they come into office, or you know, you look at the policies and you're always like, wait a minute, what do you mean? Like so that again, the corporations are put first, and the banks and all these various groups and private interests. What about the interest of life? Team life, where is the party of life here? And as you pointed out earlier, Mitch, it's like, as you see all this instability accelerating, things are not going to just get better just because we want them to get better. It's like there will be a group emerging that is a point of stability. And that's what we are. It's like we are that certain group, because we know with certainty the tools that we live, how effective they really are. And we're all in the process of what we've seen to get to where we are now has been powerful, but we still, all of us, I still don't know what more potential I can still expand and live in the years to come, that's going to be best for all and the best version of me. So it's going to be so exciting to build Team Life because of this idea of the gang and the cult, and this, it's been so misunderstood and abused in the system, when really, you know, this idea of being a star in the gang, or, you know, it's all based on you, and a point of self-interest and fear always emanates from the gang and the cult, the culture specifically, right? And there's no cultivation of actual life that you're seeing anywhere. And we are that team. And I was able to do that a long time ago. I looked at all these words like gang and cult and gangster and all these various words, and I'd redesign my living of them to where it's like I see what the system says is gangster and what gangs are, and I just don't see it. I'm just like, yeah, but that's not gangster, because if it was really gangster, they'd be standing up for life. They'd be actual stars then of life. I mean, ultimately, if you're not actually pushing to build a system that's best for all, then you're not a part of Team Life. You're a part of the problem, right? So you're not a part. So that was my redesigning of the word gangster, was to, if you're doing that, you're gangster. So you're gangster to me, Mitch, right? Everyone in the Techno Tutor is gangster, Destiny, and people in Gin that are coming into what we're doing, because you're a part of the real gang of life now. We don't have any leaders. We don't have any allowance of abuse and justifications to be getting in the way of what's best. We take self-responsibility at an individual level and as a group, and we can just keep expanding and making amazing impacts. And I mean, what do you see, Mitch, in terms of the like in terms of where the system's going, and as we're developing things out now, what is it that you in 2021, what do you think is going to be, I'm trying to think of the way to structure this question of what I'm getting at. It's like is there anything in the system that you think is going to have a big impact in what we're doing? Some other form of group or people that are going to realize what we have realized to get to the point we're at? Anything you see with that coming up?
I mean,
because the reason I say that is because I've just noticed since walking my process with Destiny and with Technotutor that governments around the world, it's like there's more politicians that I've ever seen than ever before anyway, that seem to be receptive, at least, to the idea of ending poverty. And that wasn't really such, historically speaking, that's not something that we've tended to see very often. You see a lot of governments doing all these trials, etc., of different basic income projects and things like that. So yeah, anything you see with that coming up? Like,
there's a couple things. In terms of, okay, so it kind of really like the one other person that I see who might be doing something like this that I think would be cool to get more involved with is what Brian Rose was doing with London Real when he got deplatformed for having David Icke on, just to share an alternative view of what David Icke's interpretation of coronavirus is and how the lockdown is, you know, unnecessary and all that. And Brian openly says in the show, David, I don't agree with everything you say, but I'm here to protect, you know, your freedom of speech and give you a platform. So he gets deplatformed, and then he like ran with it. So he did his own platform thing, and then now he's running for, I believe it's mayor of the city of London.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so that's cool. So I'm sure that there's other people like that, but I don't know, because kind of like you said, like England, well, the UK is like a center of the system. So we have like UK, US,
Rome, you know, a few specific parts of the world, right? Yeah.
And so I see that as it's like it's cool that that's happening and people are more woke up to that, and like not everyone is just like, oh yes, I will wear the mask and not ask any questions. So that's cool, but it's still that polarity of like, yes, I will get the vaccine, I'll get the mask, stay home, stay safe, you know, do whatever it takes till we get it to 0 deaths. Then you have the other group that's like, fuck that, open up everything. It's like there's some best middle ground somewhere in there, maybe not even middle ground, but it's like a merging of both where it's like actually best for all. That's what I want to figure out. But in terms of people who don't go totally into either of those polarities, I mean, I think London Real was kind of cool, but I would more so go to them because, so I looked at some of the policies that he's putting forth, and he talks about education, but as we both clearly see, no amount of teacher tutoring, whatever, can do what TechnoTutor does, because nothing else can bypass the conscious and put in the unconscious. And so that's plus the whole network of support. I mean, there's so much more to TechnoTutor than just the software, but like, so that's the piece that we have that no one else does have. And so no matter what the other movements are that come in, it's like, this is the platform by which we actually can build. We were talking about this too on the distributor call the other day, and I think it was Elisa or someone brought up about making the world best for all. So let's even say some group of politicians comes in, they're awesome, and they're like, yep, we're going to actually ensure that quality nutrition gets to every child. Everyone's got a home. Everyone gets basic income, right? None of that matters if everyone still has a shitty IQ.
Exactly.
It's just going to go back to these power dynamics. Everyone's still got their shit to work through. So even if like half the people aren't going to trust it, and oh, it's coming from the government, I ain't taking their handout, you know. And then so it's like, unless that education piece is resolved, which that's exactly what we do, like there's going to be a big like it can't work. And
that's what I knew that you would come up with that point, Mitch, because that's what I'm seeing with it as well. As we see these groups now that seem to be more receptive to the message of equality, and they're trying these things, but if it's polarity, it's not going to make any difference. It's still going to come back to the point of vocabulary, exactly, and what we do as a business. So they're going to have to merge into it. And yeah, that London Real Brian Rose guy, that's exactly what I was seeing with that. It's like, that's really cool, Brian, you know. But ultimately, without the processing speed of you and all your readers and followers being improved and increased, how are we going to actually redesign what's here? So yeah, that's a really cool point, because I reached out to him as well, you see, Brian Rose, when I saw that he was running for as London Mayor. And I sent this huge email, right? And then I was like, after I'd sent it, I'm thinking, yeah, well, if he can process it, I'm sure he'll get back to me. If not, well, that comes back to why I do what I do anyway. So it was just, yeah, it's been that'll be interesting to see how that moves forward, as
So
everyone will have to merge into what we do.
yeah, and I think there's one other big point. When I was down in Houston recently with Cameron Avery and some of the other distributors, we were talking a lot. Yeah, we were talking a lot about there's two books. One is on, it's like the New Class Warfare or something like that, and then Neo-Feudalism, which is two concepts. And we were reading the Great Reset. It was like every night we hung out, and instead of watching TV, we just all took turns reading from this book, and it was so cool. I had never had that in my life, where, well, except like when I was a child and my mom would like read Harry Potter to me or something. That has nothing to do with reality. So it's like we're reading about the state of the world and where things are headed, where due to things like coronavirus and specifically the lockdowns that happen, it's wiping out the middle class, so that there's like the gap is going to get so big in the future, like to become on the level of Bezos or Bill Gates or whoever at the very top, you can't make that jump anymore.
Right.
And so that's the missing piece, that we are that bridge. Because if we talked about AI coming in, taking out jobs, unless people have the ability to, one, like we're talking about, increase your ability to process information, because the world will get crazier. There will be hit with more ads. People are going to start doing Neuralink. Then they're going to start questioning, wait, was that my thought, or is someone trying to advertise to me, right? Like, I love the people that are like, oh, Neuralink's just going to solve all my problems. I'm like, no, you don't. You clearly don't understand it.
Yeah,
there's no responsibility in it. Like they just don't understand what it is. But as things like this keep happening, and as the rate of information keeps bombarding us, ads are going to get smarter. We're going to have self-driving cars, like so much change. Unless we have the right tools to actually process information and then work through all the shit that comes up. Because first time I get in a self-driving car, that's gonna be fucking terrifying. Like, no matter how much you do, but then you do it, and then you kind of accustom to it. But there's still going to be so much internally to work through in order to remain stable.
To be
otherwise,
stable. Exactly.
Otherwise, the whole anxiety, the collective anxiety level is going to keep rising. And so I see how our role in this is serving as that gap between, so there's the elite and then everybody else is like gonna keep getting more poor. The elite are going to have some sort of plan of like a universal basic income or something like that. They're going to have to, but it's going to be like the social credit score. Like, you got to be a good person, follow the rules, get, wear your mask.
X amount of microchips. Exactly.
Yeah. Don't talk shit on Facebook, that kind of thing. I mean, they already have this in China. Look up social credit score. It's real. Absolutely. They've tested it there and it works. If you jaywalk, for example, it docks your score, right? Because they have facial recognition everywhere. That's where it's headed elsewhere. So then that goes back to, at the beginning, we were talking about starting point. So it's on us to get it. Like, I don't fucking trust those people in power, but I trust myself. And I have enough evidence that those in our network are trustworthy, even though obviously day after day, we still have to check each other and cross-reference. It's like, you can't say, oh, Marley, I trust you forever, man. It's like, no, and I wouldn't want anyone to trust me forever either. It's like, it's based on action.
That's a unique point as well with our group. We don't have, when we see bullshit in each other, we call it out. We're not here to make each other feel better. It's like, because we know that that's not really better. It's an idea of you becoming better just by appeasing someone's feelings. We have to be clear with each other. And when something's not supportive, we support each other to see it, so that we can all take the necessary steps. So,
and then there's one other point within that I see that we fulfill, is that gap between the everybody and the elite. The ability to have a product to sell that, one, is going to help us re-educate, like, for example, all the millions of truck drivers around the world that are going to be laid off over the next 5 years.
Right.
They all need, you can't just go from driving a truck for 30 years to programming a computer. And by the way, they've already had software since 2014, software that can write new software. So even the software programmers, you're out of a job in the next, I'll give you 8 years, okay? So it's like, but the ability to sell and provide real value and real education, and then have a network, that is the skill set of 2021 and beyond. Exactly. And so that's what we offer with TechnoTutor as well. Like I have like one of our clients, she's like over 60, never done sales, did not have much confidence or anything. And now she's been using TechnoTutor and been changing to the point where she's already now creating new opportunity for herself. She's like, hey, I think I got the pitch down, like all this. So it's like, that's a little microcosm of what's possible. And it's not even like that's what's going to happen. And yes, there will be nuances, but that ability to learn how to sell, be part of the right network, and actually provide real value for mass amounts of people, like that's what's required. And that's what TEAMLIFE's all about, you know? So
that's it, man.
Nice, man. So like, I guess kind of to sum this all up together and, you know, get us ready for 2021, man, like anything in particular that you think is important to maybe like hold to like ponder on or reflect on or like take action on, you know, as you know, everyone's about to go, not everyone, but you know, Christmas, holidays, we're going to be around old family, friends, and the new year happens. Everyone's all pumped up for like a week. So like, what would you say, Marley, would be wise for people to kind of keep in mind and like act on, you know, over the coming days, weeks, and months?
I'd say because this time of year, it's a time where everyone, typically speaking, we want to spend time with our family and our friends, etc. And which is something I've had to face a lot in my process, is the system's idea of love is at its highest point at Christmas. And what are we going to do in 2021 and beyond? Are we going to just continue with, I mean, look at how the system already is affecting now the system love we have, and you can't have Christmas the way you've always wanted to have it, the way you were used to having it.
Can you just explain system and system love? Like, I know exactly what you mean, but for those who don't really understand like the system and system love, could you?
Yeah, sure. When I say system love, I just mean the idea of love as basically pre-programming, as polarity, as self-interest, and a limited living of give and receive. It's very conditional. It's not real, basically. It's just designed to make someone feel better. So yeah, that's what I mean when I'm saying system love. But that's the point with Christmas. It's like we're the point of the family, and you know, it's not like, oh yeah, don't be with your family, right? Obviously, but the point is, what does family really mean? Like, because if you're saying family is just your blood relatives and the people that you are living with in your immediate surroundings, that's very, very limited. So in 2021 and beyond, what would happen if we expanded our understanding of the word family? And what if we were to incorporate everyone in our family, everyone in our love? What would the world actually look like next time we get round to Christmas and beyond, in every year coming forward? It's like, if there's one child suffering in this world, love isn't manifest here on earth for me, from my perspective. And when you apply common sense, how can it be when you take into account the needs of everyone that's here? So yeah, it's the same considerations I have every year, really, Mitch, as well at this time of year. It's like, how can we expand this where everyone can have this enjoyment that we all like having with our families at this time of year? And it's like, well, really look at what's going on, people, right? Inside ourselves and outside, like around us. The system, essentially, the government, the money system, day-to-day living is limiting more and more. It's like, eventually, if we don't take a stand and actually become a group which will direct the change that's here to make the world the way we want it to be, we're going to get to a place where you won't be able to be around anyone, full stop. And you'll just be in a little isolated pod, just like in the Matrix, right? And who really wants that, right? I enjoy living here in the real world. And I don't need a computer game pretending to be life. I enjoy real life. So let's just expand it so everyone can enjoy life and have Christmas and have a great family experience where we all support each other as family, as life. The same way we do in Techno Tutor, if we can expand that and as many people as possible just start look at that more and more. So I'm sort of ranting and raving and rambling here, which is what I do really sometimes when a point comes up. But that's really what I'm seeing, what I say is important at this time of year. What about yourself, Mitch? What do you think would be, like I say, just cool considerations of people as we end this year and come into the new year?
Wow, that's really cool, expanding that understanding of family. I think that it's so in agreement with what you said about like being able to look at the world as like what would that actually look like if everyone was actually, you know, part of your family. You know, don't invite everyone in your home all at once, right? But like, you know, you'd have common sense, but like where you could actually realize that, hey, like they're good, I'm good, like honestly, like we're actually here to, you know, support each other and see each other grow and that kind of thing. Like that's really cool. What I would encourage people to look at, especially as, you know, like as like busy entrepreneurs, for example, we take a few days off of work over the next few days, like to really look at, let's say it was like a software update for yourself. And right now, let's say I'm like Mitch 4.0 because I've upgraded, you know, fundamentally 4 times in my life, some shit like that, right? Like what does Mitch 5.0 actually look like? But it's not just like what my mind wants. Oh, I would have a really nice, you know, clothes and I could have a private jet and shit like that. It's like, no, like what does that 5.0 version of yourself look like within the context of what we've discussed here, of actually creating real solutions? Because where the world's headed, where we are already, is like a really fucked up place. And so look at that 5.0 version of yourself within the context of that fucked up world, but how you can stand as a leader and stand as a point of stability to actually support other people. And don't go crazy with the imagination of like, oh, I would put a soup kitchen in every city in the world. Like keep it practical. Like maybe I'd have a meetup once a week and we'd have like people over and we'd hang out and like talk about stuff that matters. Or maybe I'd like find a way to align like what I do to make money with what's actually best. So like different ways of making it practical, but really for everyone to look at what does that next version of myself look like? I would write it down and then like ponder it over the next few days so you can then really integrate that. So then as we do move into 2021 and everything does, you know, shift forward in a sense, we actually know what we're creating instead of just going along, you know, going along with the flow. It's like we're actually intentionally directing it.
Going with the flow, exactly. That's the thing. Let's not fall into that path of least resistance, which the mind always seeks. And when we're actually taking self-responsibility, you know, we face resistance and we face that pain to become that, like you say, that 5.0 version of ourselves. And we don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to be needed now more than ever. And ultimately, it's like, this process is exactly that, a process. And so there is going to be, because I'm sure you've noticed, Mitch, as well, since you've been walking to be the best version of yourself, that you know you can get this real fast acceleration through a lot of points where you're correcting all these issues that you've seen within yourself, and then you can get to like little plateau points, and then like you can see how then your ego starts trying to trick you with putting you can deal with this one, but don't deal with that one, you know, let me have some energy from that one. And that's the point. When we keep upgrading ourselves is when we just stop and like, no, that I'm dealing with that now because I know that it's going to be best for all if I actually take a stand here and end that point, breath by breath. You know, and that point, breath by breath, point by point. It's also, very easy to get lost trying to correct too many points in one go. And that's also something which I enjoy so much with what we do, how you're able to just specify so clearly what one point is. You can just open up all the layers and dimensions of it and really redesign that one point to be optimal. instead of, like I say, just if it's damaging you, then and letting it just run on autopilot. It's like that's not what we're here to do. And so, yeah, just going off what you were saying with the 5.0, that was just brought that up for me. But that was
Yeah.
cool.
Like 5G, right? 5G's everywhere. We get to be 5.0.
5G, 6G, 7G, all these different Gs now coming out.
Yeah, well, awesome, Marley. So thanks, man. This
Cool,
was
man.
this is really good. I look forward to more of this, and I look forward to expanding Team Life into 2021 and beyond, man.
Me too, man. Awesome
All
to
right,
be here with
everyone.
you, Mitch. See you
Yeah.
soon, man.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks,
See ya.
everyone.